I had an extremely disconcerting experience late in the winter last year. For context, I live in an extremely isolated community. The forest stretches forever around us, and the next closest town is hours away. It was late December, and I was out in the woods with my mother and telescope trying to catch a glimpse of Jupiter and Saturn in conjunction in the sky. The sun had just set, the snow was deep, and then we started to hear the screaming. It was this woman's voice, just screaming for help. Couldn't even tell if it was human or animal at first. Eventually, I could make out the words "help me," but it was also animalistic. We called the police and went to go look for her and got totally lost. The snow was so deep and the trail seemed to just disappear. I was hearing her voice and yelling that help was coming and to keep shouting so I could find her. I know the area, I know these trails, but everything just melted away and I felt as if though I was being watched. Then things get really weird. I'm getting closer and closer, hearing another voice coming from that spot. I see a flash of a fox in my peripheral vision. Turn a corner and suddenly stop. This massive red fox is standing there, staring right into my soul. I swear its eyes were almost human. The snow was too deep to get around it, and it wouldn't move at all. I screamed at it and threw snow and sticks, but it just watched me, and I swear it could have opened its mouth and begun to speak. It wouldn't let me pass at all. I've seen so many fox here, but I swear to God, something was different about this one. In a disconcerting, protective way, it was like he knew me and I knew him. Then the 911 operator called me so I could guide the police to the scene. Since we were pretty far in the bush, I was totally lost and confused. I'm trying to find my way back, and then I see the fox again. He watches me and then slips back into the forest. Suddenly, I see these fox tracks in the snow and began following them. I pop out of the bush within 20 meters of 2 armed police officers. The police and fire departments searched into the night and found nothing. In the spring, 2 or 3 kilometers from the site, in the opposite direction of where I heard the screams, they found what was left of a woman's body. What the fuck did I almost run into that night? And what was protecting me? I had to cut my camping trip in New Mexico short. Well, where I was in New Mexico, coyotes are common, so I knew where I was staying and I was going to see a few, or at least hear them in the night howling. But what weirded me out was while I was eating by the campfire, it was starting to get a little dark, but I could still see. I started hearing the barking of howling of a coyote. I paid no mind because I didn't think a coyote would come near the campfire, but then I realized it's only one dog that I hear. This is weird because coyotes are pack animals for the most part. It's getting closer, so I'm chilling out and about to go to bed. When I start hearing footsteps that sound like a dog. I can hear it getting closer. I'm not really in the mood to have that thing eating on my food, so I have this .355 loaded with snake shot for rattlers and weirdos alike. So I just shoot around to the ground, and I remember hearing stuff run off, and at this point I was tired. I had some more hiking to do in the morning, so I turned in. I woke up a couple more times at night and heard something walking around my tent and campsite. I wasn't really scared of this because, like I said, I have a .357 and most dogs aren't going to try to get into my tent, but I'm not a really big fan of shooting wild animals because it's a waste. It eventually walked off about 15 minutes or so, and I went back to bed. When I woke up, I found out there was human footprints around my campsite. I thought I was just going crazy, or maybe I mistook it for a coyote. But while I was following the tracks, they slowly turned into coyote tracks. And that's why I remembered a story my friend told me about skinwalkers. I remember he told me that you don't fuck with skinwalkers. The best thing to do is to just get out of Dodge. The story begins on July 1st of this year. I had some friends over at my grandparents'. All of us are 16 plus, if that helps at all. It was about 3:30 a.m., and all of us were just chilling in the game room when my friend Sammy and I decided we wanted to swim. So we went outside, tested the water, and felt we should. I convinced my other friend Luke to go out there with us, but he decided he was just going to sit on the patio and not swim. So I changed clothes and tell Luke I'd be right back and was going to go retrieve Sammy. Now the game room was a separate building from the house and completely soundproofed with very thick windows and is about 50 feet away from the pool. Luke was off to the far left of it next to the bushes. I'm in the game room retrieving Sammy when Luke walks in like he's seen a ghost. He goes on explaining how he saw a human face in the bushes and heard my voice. The problem, of course, is that I was in the game room talking at a normal volume. He went on to explain how everything in him told him to run and mentioned how he'd actually been saying Skinwalker earlier. I've always been into the supernatural, so naturally I want to go check it out. Not really intelligent, I know. So me, Sammy, Austin, and Luke go back outside, and Sammy and Austin swear they see a face in the bushes. The problem is it wasn't where Luke had seen it first. Austin later explained how he saw a figure moving across a tree line. Before this, another friend, Jude, and me, and my brother went outside to kind of just look and hang, when all of a sudden we saw a figure in the tree line, and Jude heard a voice whispering to him when he wasn't around us. Everyone went home the next day, but apparently whatever it was stayed. The next morning, my brother heard my aunt screaming. However, she wasn't even at the house, and everyone else was asleep. Then last night, I was in the game room by myself when everything told me to run. I started to hear almost demonic screeching outside and several taps at the window. If anyone has any advice, it would be much appreciated. So me and my two buddies were up in Lone Creek with a plan to sleep under the stars and leave the next day. So we got everything set up and decided to go swim in the lake. On our way back, we saw a single deer with abnormally large eyes and ears and had odd proportions in general. I've grown up in Utah Valley my whole life and have seen thousands of deer, so I know what they usually look and act like. The deer was sitting on a rock like a dog, and it turned its head to watch us without giving any reaction. Its head seemed to turn and follow while its body stayed perfectly still. It almost looked like its head was detached from its body. I decided that it was an odd occurrence and I should just ignore it. This was at 4 p.m. About 30 minutes later, while we were all at our campsite, we saw the deer chasing another, but it stopped and continued to just look at us for maybe 5 minutes. When we all looked away, it almost just disappeared. Maybe it took off as soon as we looked away, but this was also odd. 30 minutes after that, we saw the same deer, probably 200 yards away, up on the side of a hill overlooking us. It stayed there for at least 45 minutes just staring at us. The fourth time we saw it was later around 9:30 p.m. when we were in our sleeping bags getting ready to go to bed. The deer came up from the river that we're next to, probably 20 feet away, and just looked at us again for maybe 2 minutes, then went back down. Same thing happened again in the same spot 15 minutes later. It almost seemed to be checking in if we had gone to sleep yet. It continued to check on us for more than 15 minutes later again. At this point, I was a little freaked out, but I didn't want to say anything because I was afraid my friend would say I was imagining things. So we all tried to go to bed about 10:30, 10:45. We started hearing something maybe 10 feet away, just under the hill that led to where the river was. We continued to hear what sounded like a deer walking in the river and coming to check on us. Every time it would get close, we would start talking and shine our lights in the trees to see if we could see anything. This happened enough to the point we grabbed everything and left at midnight. On our way down, my buddy said they kept seeing silhouettes off to our sides. The entire way down, we kept seeing weird things. Like a deer right next to the road staring at the mountainside at literally nothing. Not moving or reacting or grazing. We continued to see more and more of the deer were behaving oddly. But remember, we have all seen thousands of deer just up in that canyon itself, and they have never behaved like that. Please anyone, let me know if you know what that was, or have an idea on what it could be. In July of 2020, my buddy and I decided we'd go shooting at night in the woods, near Placerville, Idaho, near an old mining facility. This is important later. The entire drive up there, which I would assume it was around 10ish, I was getting really bad vibes, but I didn't say anything because I figured I was just being a little bitch. Anyways, we get up there, clear the mining house with rifles in hand, then throw on some music and chill out for a bit. The entire time we were up there, it was pretty quiet. I'm still on the edge because it's at night in the middle of the woods, in an area I had never been to, and I still have this sixth sense type of feeling like something isn't right. Buddy says, okay, let's do some shooting and reloading drills. Buddy goes first, aims at the brim where the coordinates are, and fires 2 shots. The moment the second shot is fired, I hear something screaming loud from the tree line behind us where the mining house is, and it sounded demonic. Like a cross between an elk, bear, and wolf dying. I said, fuck this, and book it back to the truck. My buddy turns around and unloads into the direction the scream came. I hop in the car, put my rifle out the window in the direction the scream came from, and cover him from the car while he runs back at it. Which at this point, the thing screams at us again, and I fire some shots in this direction. My buddy hops in the truck and we start the car, turn on the lights as we're turning around to go back to the dirt trail, and it screams at us again. Only this time it sounds like a dog. We both look at each other and are collective, what the fuck is that? Fuck this mode. We make our way back down the mountain. He's driving one-handed with a pistol in the other, and I have my AR pointed out the window. We didn't hear any more screams, but the entire vibe feels like you're near death and being hunted. So sort of very primal. I need the fight or die feeling that I've never experienced before. I still get chills thinking about it. Instead, we notice more weird shit. The moon had turned red. I have no explanation for this to this day. And there were weird lights in the forest, like orange orbs floating on another ridgeline. There was no one out there. We eventually got back on the main highway where the moon had just turned back to its normal bluish white. My friend is an ex-Marine and combat veteran. I'm a seasoned outdoorsman, and we cannot explain what happened. I've told the story a few times to close friends, and they all pretty much told me the same thing. Whatever happened that night defied logic, because it was either not of this world, alien, or some sort of paranormal being or cryptid. Maybe we were just being spooked and some other animal in our mind was filling the gaps. North America is a big place, and I personally believe there are creatures out there we still don't know more of in secluded parts of the continent. When we get back in the boys and began telling some of the friends about the situation, many of them said that there was a Yeti or something up there, so who knows. I should also note that after shooting at it, my friend said he heard footsteps coming towards us, like it was running, and it was big. I recently watched a video about this thing called crawlers. I find it significant because we were near a mine and other people who have gone to that area report feeling the same uneasy presence. It could be some undiscovered subterranean nocturnal species that has taken these people, which is why they disappear without a trace.